So, it's Christmas Day 2022, and this is my first day off since the 19th of October, which means I have worked 67 days in a row, which angers me to my very core because it could have at least been 69. But what can you do? So for each of these days, I worked my standard 8 or 9 hours, depending on whether I was at the office or at the supermarket. But some of these weren't complete full shifts. So on Friday the 21st of October, I worked 8:30 to 12:30 instead of 8:30 to 4:30. I left halfway through the day because I had a funeral at 2 o'clock. If you saw my little quick video I made after my 4th CPA exam, or my 2nd CPA exam this year, or my most recent CPA exam at the time of recording, you would have seen that it was a very unfortunate month for me and many others. On Thursday the 27th of October, much the same thing happened. I worked 4 hours and then I left for another funeral at 2 o'clock. On Thursday the 10th of November, practically the same story. On Saturday the 12th of November, I worked 8 to 12 at the supermarket gig. This was a Saturday, I already said it was a Saturday, and I left early for extra training. On that day in particular, it was only a couple of weeks until we moved into our new store, so we had some sort of refresher training session down at another store, so obviously I had to leave work early to go and do that. And on Sunday the 18th of December, I worked 3 till 10, because I had a family reunion in the afternoon. I left that early to go to work, but normally I would work 1 till 10 on a Sunday. Now, my regular viewers will know that I don't normally do 1 till 10 on a Sunday, I normally do 7 till 4, but that has changed, and I will elaborate on that in a video I'm going to release around the end of the year. It'll be released pretty close to the same time as this video you're watching now. So here's a little Excel spreadsheet snippet thing that I made. And it basically encapsulates the entire 67-day run I've just had. Now, the top 3 cells, shaded in grey, they're not relevant for this video, so obviously on that Monday and Tuesday I worked, and that Wednesday was the last day off I've had. Well, before Christmas, that is. The light orange / brown cells are days that I did work, but I didn't work like the full normal shift amount. So I did work, it wasn't a day off. I did still have to get up early, except for the family reunion, but I still did work 7 hours that day instead of 9, so it's not exactly a day off now, is it? And then the light blue days are where my original hours were, I guess, altered. Well, my original, contracted hours were slightly altered, but the total hours I worked were the same. So on Tuesday the 29th of November, I had my sister's 24th, so we had a later dinner, so instead of being super early to that dinner, I'm like, well, I'll just sleep in a little bit, start work later, and then just rock up to the dinner on time. Basically just leave work as soon as I finish, and then I'll be right on time. And pretty much the same thing happened on Friday the 2nd of December as well. Had dinner with friends, and they were like, oh, we'll meet up at 6 o'clock or whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, if I finish work at a normal time, I'm going to be too early, so I may as well just get a sleep in and start later, finish later, hey. And then Christmas Eve, normally I'll do 8 till 5 on a Saturday, but because it's Christmas Eve and we've got a lot of new staff in, they kind of need more of the bigger guns in the morning to help set up the store right. So I'm starting an hour earlier and finishing an hour earlier. Well, I started an hour earlier and finished an hour earlier. So we'll finish this video off by saying, how do I do this? Well, when your alarm goes off in the morning, you wake up, you do your usual morning routine. Unlike most YouTubers you'll see, I don't fuck around a lot in the morning, I get shit done. I'm very efficient, I sleep as much as possible. And the shorter your morning routine is, the more you can sleep, which is obviously more beneficial overall. So, yeah, your alarm goes off and then you go to work. But, joking aside, obviously you do it for money, right? That's mainly what's going to keep you going. I got my eyes on the prize, real estate in my area, which, I mean, in any area, it's pretty expensive, but in this particular region in Australia, the real estate prices they just keep going up. In a lot of parts of the country, they're starting to drop down, but in my particular area, they are still going up just because of the massive demand for it. And a lot of people have sort of moved to my sort of area instead of moving to Melbourne, which obviously has spiked demand further. But essentially, this is what I must do to get real estate in my area. Now, I slightly mentioned this before, wake up to your alarm, show up to work, but showing up is 80% of success. Not sure where I saw that quote, and obviously anyone can make some quote of like, oh, success is 80% of this, or oh, money is 90% of that, and you can talk about percentages all you want, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of the time, if you just show up, that's automatically outworking a lot of competition. Like, think about gym. Even if your gym routine isn't completely optimized, it's still a lot better than people who didn't go at all. Your current job may not be the absolute best resume experience, but it's still a lot better than those people that didn't go through all the trials and tribulations of job interviews and uni and all that shit. Now, a big lesser known one, well, lesser known if you're the general public, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you've seen this before, but CBD gummies. Literally, you eat one, within 15 to 20 minutes, you're very sleepy. It's magic. Now, I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Everyone's seen that Matthew Walker sort of book and his podcasts and shit where he talks about 8 hours of sleep. You don't really need 8. Some people can get away with less. What I found is the more exercise you do, the more sleep you need, which makes sense. The more, your body's got to recover from more stuff. But don't freak out if you're not getting 8 hours of sleep. This video here goes into a lot of detail on all this stuff. Now, most of it I already knew beforehand. Like, most of it I knew before watching that video because I'd seen Stan Efferding talk about this years ago. But there is some good tidbits in there that I hadn't seen before, and I'm sure most people will learn a lot from it. Another thing that helps me is circadian rhythm. So because my shifts, well, apart from my new Sunday shift, but pretty much all of my shifts work around your circadian rhythm. So I can sleep during the ideal circadian hours of sleep, and it fits well around my job. So that helps a lot. If I did 7 days as a night shift worker, or if I did 7 days with a rotating shift, like if I was a nurse or a police officer or something, jobs where you can work around the clock, it might be a bit more difficult to survive 67 days in a row of this stuff. Good room temperature, there's a certain ideal amount, but I don't have a thermostat or anything in my room. I just have to rely on opening the window a certain amount or having more blankets on. So that's the best I've got to work with. If you have a thermostat, I'm sure there's some ideal temperature, but it's usually on the cooler side. I think maybe 18 degrees Celsius. Don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. And you can potentially change your mattress or your pillow. So I got a new mattress myself recently, and my God, it is so much better than my old one. I didn't know what I was missing out on. This one's like, it's a lot thicker up top, so I'm sleeping from a higher set point than I was before, but the old mattress I had for at least 10 years. It was probably more like 15 plus. And I couldn't tell it was really worn out. But I got asked by my parents what I wanted for Christmas the other day, and I was like, don't know. And then a couple of days later, I'm like, yeah, I guess I could use a new mattress because my brother wanted one. So I was like, yeah, I could use one too. And then, yeah, I used it. I opened that present a bit earlier than Christmas, but I wish I did it sooner because the quality of sleep is so much better, and then you can feel a difference lying down. It just feels so much more relaxing. So that was a quick update on my grind. I have just had my first day off in 67 days. I very much doubt this will happen again. The reason it happened was because I drained a lot of my annual leave going on the holiday I went on earlier in 2022. But I actually have mapped out all the public holidays in the upcoming year. And I've scheduled certain days off where the most I will work is maybe 35, 40 days in a row. Other than that, I'll probably average somewhere between 20 and 30 days in a row in certain stints. There'll be some weeks where I only work like 10, 12 days before I end up with a day off, just due to how public holidays work and a day off I've scheduled and shit like that, exam study, all that. But I will probably never work this amount of days in a row again, which again is why I'm mad about not hitting 69, because I don't think I'll go for that streak ever again. Happy holidays. Keep grinding.